The street was loud. Cars honking. People shouting. Vendors calling out prices. The usual chaos of a busy afternoon. Steven Seagal walked calmly through the crowd, hands in his pockets, head slightly down, moving like he had nowhere to rush. Simple jeans. A faded jacket. Nothing flashy. Just another man in the city, or so it seemed. Then it happened. A tall, loud man stepped directly into his path and blocked him. "Hey! Watch where you're going!" the man barked, shoving Steven's shoulder. Steven stopped. Slowly looked up. Calm eyes. No anger. No fear. "I'm sorry," Steven said quietly and tried to move around him. But the man wasn't done. He laughed. Loud. Mocking. "Sorry. That's all you got," he sneered, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "You look lost, old man. This isn't a place for weak people." People nearby began to slow down. Some turned their heads. A few pulled out their phones. Steven said nothing. He simply took a step to the side. The man stepped in front of him again. "Where do you think you're going?" he said, chest puffed out. "You think you can just walk away from me?" A small circle formed. Strangers. Bystanders. Curious faces. Steven remained silent. That silence made the man angrier. "What, can't talk?" he laughed. "Cat got your tongue? Or are you just scared?" A few nervous chuckles came from the crowd. Steven lifted his eyes. Calm. Steady. No reaction. No challenge. Just quiet. The man took that as weakness. He leaned closer. Too close. "People like you should stay home," he whispered loudly. "This street eats guys like you alive." Steven didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Didn't move. The crowd could feel it. Something was wrong. This wasn't fear. This wasn't weakness. This was control. The man smirked, proud of himself, enjoying the attention. He raised his hands and mocked Steven's posture. "Look at him," he laughed. "Standing there like a statue. What are you gonna do? Hug me?" A few people gasped. Others whispered, sensing trouble. Steven finally spoke. Soft. Calm. Controlled. "I don't want any problems." The man grinned. "Oh, you just found one." And right there, on that noisy street, in front of everyone, he made the biggest mistake of his life. Because he had no idea. Steven Seagal breaks bones. The street didn't slow down. Cars kept honking. People kept walking. Life kept moving. But around Steven Seagal and the loud man, time felt different. A small crowd had formed now, strangers drawn by instinct, by drama, by that invisible signal that something was about to happen. A woman held her shopping bags tighter. A teenager raised his phone. A street vendor leaned forward to see better. The man circled Steven like a predator who thought he had found easy prey. "So what, you mute?" he laughed. "Or just too scared to answer?" Steven stood still. Balanced. Relaxed. His hands loose at his sides. His breathing slow and steady. Anyone who truly understood fighting would recognize it immediately. This was not fear. This was discipline. But the man didn't understand that. He only saw quiet. And to him, quiet meant weak. "Look at you," he continued, pointing at Steven's jacket. "That thing looks older than you. You lost, Grandpa? Need directions to a retirement home." A few people in the crowd winced. Others looked away, uncomfortable. One older man shook his head in disapproval. But no one stepped in. Steven glanced around briefly, not at the man, at the people. The families. The kids. The normal lives passing by. He exhaled slowly. "I'm just trying to walk," Steven said. Calm. Respectful. Almost gentle. The man scoffed. "Oh, now he talks," he said loudly. "Hear that, everyone? He's trying to walk." He stepped closer, invading Steven's space. "You walk when I say you walk." Steven didn't step back. That confused the man. Most people, when threatened, either flinch or push back. Steven did neither. He simply stood there, eyes level, posture grounded. Like a tree in a storm. The man clicked his tongue. "Trying to be tough now," he said. "You think I'm scared of you?" He shoved Steven's chest with 2 fingers. Not hard. Just enough to test him. Steven didn't move. The man's smile faded for a split second. He shoved again. Harder. Steven's body shifted slightly, but his feet didn't move. The crowd felt it. That wasn't normal. A woman whispered, "Why isn't he reacting?" A man muttered, "Something's off about this guy." But the bully didn't hear them. He was too focused on winning. "You're weird, man," he said. "You know that. Most people would be on the ground by now." Steven met his eyes. Still calm. Still quiet. "I don't want to embarrass you," Steven said softly. The man froze. Then he laughed. "Embarrass me? You?" He threw his head back and laughed louder, making sure everyone heard. "Did you hear that?" he shouted to the crowd. "He said he doesn't want to embarrass me." A few people laughed nervously. Others stayed silent. The man leaned in close, his breath hot, his voice low. "You couldn't embarrass me if you tried." Steven's eyes didn't change. That was the scary part. No anger. No fear. No ego. Just focus. The man poked Steven's chest again. Then again. Tap, tap. "Do something," he whispered. "Go on. Be a hero." Steven said nothing. The silence stretched. It made the bully uncomfortable. So he raised his voice again. "Look at this guy," he said, spreading his arms. "Standing here like some kung fu monk. You practicing yoga or something?" A few people chuckled. Others looked uneasy. Steven shifted his weight slightly. Just slightly. The man noticed. "Oh, there we go," he said. "You getting nervous now?" Steven's gaze locked on him. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just present. "You should walk away," Steven said. The man blinked. Then he smiled. "Slow. Mean. Or what?" Steven didn't answer. That silence, again. It was heavy now. Thick. Like the air before a storm. A child in the crowd tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, why is that man yelling?" She didn't answer. The bully took another step forward. Now their chests almost touched. "Say it," he whispered. "Say you're scared." Steven looked straight into his eyes. "I'm not." The man's smile vanished. His jaw tightened. And that's when he made it personal. He shoved Steven hard, 2 hands, full force. The crowd gasped. Steven slid back half a step, and stopped. Perfect balance. No stumble. No panic. The bully stared. For the first time, doubt flickered across his face. But pride pushed it away. He clenched his fists. "Yeah," he said. "That's what I thought." Steven straightened his jacket. Slow. Controlled. The crowd went quiet. No laughter. No whispers. Just anticipation. Because everyone could feel it now. This wasn't a random argument anymore. This was the calm before something serious. And the man. He was still smiling. Still confident. Still clueless. Because he had no idea. The man standing in front of him had spent a lifetime learning how to end fights in seconds. The bully rolled his shoulders like he was warming up for a show. He glanced around at the small crowd, enjoying the attention. Phones were out now. A few people were recording openly. Others pretended not to watch but couldn't look away. Steven stood in front of him, calm as stone. That calm irritated him. "You know what?" the man said loudly. "I don't like quiet people. You guys always think you're better than everyone else." Steven didn't respond. So the man filled the silence with noise. "You got a problem with me?" he asked, stepping closer. "Because it sure looks like you do." Steven shook his head slightly. "No." The man laughed. Sharp. Mocking. "Then why you looking at me like that?" "I'm just looking at you," Steven replied. That answer made the crowd murmur. It wasn't rude. It wasn't submissive. It was honest. The bully didn't like that. He leaned in again, close enough that their noses almost touched. "Don't get smart with me." Steven's voice stayed low. "I'm not." The man scoffed. "Man, you're annoying." He turned to the crowd. "Can you believe this guy?" he said. "Acts like he's some kind of monk or something. Bet he thinks he's dangerous." A few people shook their heads. One woman whispered, "Just leave him alone." But her voice was swallowed by the street noise. The man turned back to Steven and smirked. "You dangerous?" he asked. "Huh. You got hands?" Steven didn't answer. The man took that as an invitation. He raised his hand and waved it slowly in front of Steven's face. "Hello. Anybody home?" No reaction. That made him bolder. He flicked Steven's jacket with his finger. Then again. Flick, flick. "Nice jacket," he said. "Did you get it from a donation box?" A few uncomfortable laughs came from somewhere in the crowd. Steven's jaw tightened slightly. Just slightly. The man noticed. "Oh," he said, eyes lighting up. "There we go. I see it. You don't like that, do you?" Steven inhaled slowly. Exhaled. Still calm. Still quiet. The bully's grin grew wider. He reached out and tugged Steven's jacket collar. "Is this thing even yours?" he said. "Or you borrow it from your grandpa?" A sharp intake of breath rippled through the crowd. "Hey!" someone muttered. "That's enough." But no one stepped in. Steven gently pushed the man's hand away. Not hard. Not aggressive. Just removed it. The bully froze for half a second. Then his face hardened. "Oh, you touching me now?" he snapped. "You got some nerve." He shoved Steven's shoulder. Hard. Steven rocked back slightly, then settled. The man laughed. "There we go," he said. "Now we're playing." Steven's eyes lifted. "Calm. Focused." "Please," he said quietly. "Walk away." The man's face twisted. "Walk away," he repeated. "You don't tell me what to do." He jabbed a finger into Steven's chest. "Do you know who I am?" Steven shook his head. "No." The man smirked. "Exactly." He turned to the crowd again, raising his voice. "This guy doesn't even know who he's messing with." Someone whispered, "Just stop." Another muttered, "This is getting ugly." The bully stepped even closer. So close that Steven could feel his breath. "You think because you're calm, you're tough," the man whispered. "You think you're some kind of warrior?" Steven didn't respond. That silence, it mocked him. The bully's pride couldn't take it. So he went lower. "You know what?" he said. "You look like a washed-up nobody. Like life already beat you." Steven's eyes flicked, just for a second. The man saw it. He smiled. "Yeah," he said. "That hit, didn't it?" The crowd shifted. Uneasy. Tense. The man raised his hands and clapped slowly. "Come on, everyone," he said. "Let's give it up for Mr. Tough Guy. Standing here like a statue. So brave." No one clapped. That made him angry. He turned back to Steven, his voice sharper now. "Say something," he demanded. "Defend yourself." Steven's voice was steady. "Respect yourself." The man blinked, then laughed. "Respect," he said. "On this street, you earn respect." Steven nodded. "Exactly." That answer confused him, then irritated him. He stepped back and looked Steven up and down. "You know what your problem is," he said. "You think you're special." Steven shook his head. "No. I think you are." The crowd murmured. The bully frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," Steven said calmly, "you're trying very hard to be seen." For a second, the man didn't speak. The words hit something deep. Then his face flushed. Anger. Pure. Huh. He lunged forward and grabbed Steven's collar with one hand. The crowd gasped. "Don't psychoanalyze me," he snapped. "You don't know me." Steven's eyes locked onto his. Steady. Unblinking. "Let go," Steven said. The man tightened his grip. "Make me." The street went quiet. Even the traffic noise seemed to fade. Everyone felt it. This wasn't teasing anymore. This wasn't joking. This was a line being crossed. Steven's posture changed. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just ready. The bully didn't notice. He was too busy feeling powerful. Too busy feeling in control. Too busy enjoying the moment. He leaned in and whispered, "After this, you're gonna remember me." Steven's voice was barely above a breath. "So will you?" And in that moment, the air shifted. The crowd leaned in. Hearts pounded. Because everyone could feel it now. This humiliation had reached its limit. And something was about to snap. The man's hand was still gripping Steven's collar. Tight. Aggressive. Possessive. The crowd had gone silent. No laughter. No whispers. Even the traffic noise felt distant, like the world had stepped back to watch. Steven didn't move. Didn't raise his hands. Didn't flinch. Didn't panic. He simply looked at the man. Calm. Unblinking. Focused. "Let go," Steven said again. The man smirked. "You think I'm scared of you?" Steven's voice stayed low. "I think you're making a mistake." That word, mistake, lit a fuse. The man's jaw tightened. His grip tightened. "You don't talk to me like that," he snapped. "You hear me?" Steven exhaled slowly through his nose. A controlled breath. A measured breath. The kind fighters take when they're deciding something. A woman in the crowd whispered, "Please, someone stop this." A teenager lowered his phone slightly, suddenly unsure. An older man shook his head, muttering, "This won't end well." The bully didn't notice. He was locked in. High on attention. High on power. "You like being embarrassed," he said. "Because that's what you are right now. A joke." Steven's eyes flicked briefly to the man's hand on his collar, then back to his face. "You should let go," Steven said. "No." The man laughed. "Short. Sharp. Or what?" he challenged. Steven didn't answer. That silence again. It was heavier now. Thicker. Like the air before lightning. The bully's smile twitched. He didn't like not getting a reaction. So he pushed. Hard. Steven's back bumped lightly against a parked car. Metal echoed. The sound cut through the air. Gasps from the crowd. "Hey!" someone shouted. "That's enough," another voice called. Still, no one stepped in. Steven straightened himself. Slowly. Deliberately. He adjusted his jacket. That small movement unnerved the man. "Don't get comfortable," the bully said. "You're not safe." Steven looked around briefly, at the people. The kids. The normal lives passing by. Then back at the man. "I don't want to hurt you," Steven said. The man scoffed. "Hurt me?" He laughed loud, throwing his head back. "You couldn't hurt me if you tried." Steven tilted his head slightly. "Are you sure?" he asked. The crowd felt that. A shift. A change in the air. The bully's smile faded. Just for a second. Then pride surged. He stepped in closer, chest to chest. "So what, you a fighter now?" he said. "You some kind of secret ninja?" Steven didn't smile. Didn't laugh. Didn't blink. "I've been training longer than you've been angry," Steven said quietly. The words landed. The man frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," Steven replied, "you're standing too close." The bully looked down. Then back up. And laughed. "Or what?" he repeated. "You gonna whisper me to death?" A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd. Steven's shoulders relaxed. That scared the people who were paying attention. Because relaxation, in moments like this, wasn't weakness. It was readiness. The man suddenly shoved Steven again. Hard. 2 hands. Full force. Steven moved half a step, and stopped. Perfect balance. No stumble. No panic. The bully stared. For the first time, real doubt crossed his face. "Why aren't you falling?" he muttered. Steven didn't answer. The man shook his head, angry now. "You think you're special?" he snapped. You think you're better than me? Steven's voice was calm. I think you're hurting. That hit harder than any punch. The man's eyes widened, then narrowed. You don't know me, he growled. Steven nodded. I know your anger. The bully's hands clenched into fists. The crowd tensed. A woman covered her mouth. A man whispered, "Oh no!" A child hid behind his mother. The bully stepped back, creating space. Too much space. Fighting space. He rolled his neck, cracked his knuckles. You done talking? He asked. Because I'm done listening. Steven didn't move. Didn't raise his guard. Just stood. Still. Silent. Centered. You should stop, Steven said. The man laughed. You gonna make me? Steven's eyes hardened. Just a fraction. That's not what I want, he said. But it might be what you need. The bully took that as a threat. His face twisted with rage. Don't threaten me, he snapped. I'm warning you, Steven replied. The difference was clear. The bully took one more step forward. The crowd leaned in. He raised his hand. Not to punch. To slap. To humiliate. To show dominance. His palm lifted. High. Slow. The world seemed to hold its breath. Steven's eyes tracked the movement. Calm. Focused. Ready. The man smirked. This is gonna be fun, he said. And as his hand started to come down, everything changed. Because that was the last mistake he would ever make. The man's hand came down. Fast. Sloppy. Arrogant. He was aiming to slap. To humiliate. To show dominance in front of the crowd. He never landed it. Steven moved. Not fast. Not slow. Precise. His body shifted just inches, enough to let the hand pass by empty air. At the same time, his own hand came up and gently, almost politely, caught the man's wrist. The crowd gasped. The bully blinked. What the? Before the sentence could finish, Steven rotated the wrist. A simple motion. Small. Controlled. There was a sharp sound. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just wrong. The man's face drained of color. His mouth opened. No sound came out. Then the pain hit. He screamed. Hi. Raw. Shocked. His knees buckled as Steven guided him down, not throwing, not slamming, guiding. Like setting something heavy on the floor. The man dropped to one knee. Then both. Clutching his arm. Gasping. Crying. The street erupted. Oh my God! Did you see that? What just happened? Phones shot up. Hands trembled. People stared. Steven released the wrist and stepped back. Calm. Balanced. Breathing steady. The bully rocked back and forth on his knees, eyes wide, face twisted in pain and disbelief. You, he tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Steven said nothing. The man tried to stand. Failed. Collapsed back down. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. That was nothing, someone whispered. That was clean. The bully looked up at Steven like he was seeing him for the first time. Not as a victim. Not as a joke. As a threat. As something dangerous. What did you do? He gasped. Steven's voice was low. I asked you to stop. The man shook his head, sweat forming on his forehead. That's not normal, he said. That's not normal. Steven tilted his head slightly. Neither is your behavior. The man tried to laugh. It came out as a whimper. He clutched his arm, rocking. You broke it, he whispered. You broke my arm. Steven didn't correct him. He didn't need to. The crowd was silent now. No laughter. No whispers. Just stunned faces. A woman covered her mouth. A man took a step back. A teenager lowered his phone slowly, eyes wide. The bully tried to push himself up with his good arm. His body screamed in protest. He cried out and dropped again. Steven took one step forward. The man flinched. Actually flinched. Don't touch me, he cried. Steven stopped. Right where he was. "I'm not here to hurt you," Steven said. "I'm here to end this." The man stared at him, breathing fast, chest heaving, pride shattered. Who are you?" he whispered. Steven met his eyes. No anger, no pride, no ego, just truth. "Someone you should have respected." The man swallowed hard. The crowd leaned in. Someone in the back whispered, Is that Steven Seagal?" Another voice replied, "No way." The bully shook his head, confused, terrified. "You're not normal," he said again. "People don't move like that." Steven nodded slightly. "That's because most people don't train like this." The man laughed weakly. "Train for what?" he asked. "Breaking people." Steven's voice was calm. "Stopping them." The bully's eyes filled with something new. Fear. Real fear. He looked around at the crowd, then back at Steven. "You humiliated me," he whispered. Steven shook his head. "No," he said. "You did that yourself." The words cut deeper than the pain. The man dropped his gaze. His shoulders sagged. The fight was gone. The anger was gone. All that was left was shock and regret. Steven took another step back, giving him space. The crowd shifted, some stepping closer, others stepping away. A man in the crowd murmured, "He didn't even hit him." A woman whispered, "It was like magic." Steven turned slightly, checking the street, the people, the space. Always aware. Always controlled. The bully tried to stand again. This time, Steven gently placed a hand on his shoulder. The man froze. Eyes wide. Steven leaned in slightly, voice low so only he could hear. "Don't," he said. "Stay down." The man nodded immediately. Obedient. Humbled. The crowd watched in silence. Steven straightened and stepped away. No victory pose. No celebration. No drama. Just done. The bully sat there on the pavement, breathing hard, staring at the ground. The man who had been loud, arrogant, cruel, now quiet, small, broken, not just in body but in pride. Steven looked back once. Not with anger. Not with satisfaction. With something else. Disappointment. "Next time," Steven said calmly, "use your voice to build, not to tear down." The man didn't reply. He couldn't. The crowd slowly began to murmur again. Whispers. Gasps. Questions. "Who is he? Did you see that? That guy didn't even touch him." Steven adjusted his jacket and started to walk away. Like nothing had happened. Like it was just another step on another street. Behind him, the bully stayed on the ground, staring, shaking, finally understanding. He had tried to humiliate the wrong man, and paid for it. The street slowly came back to life. Not loudly, not normally, in fragments. Whispers first, then murmurs, then low, shocked conversations. "Did you see that? He didn't even punch him. How did he do that? That was scary." People stared at the man on the ground. The same man who minutes ago had been loud, proud, untouchable. Now he was sitting on the pavement, clutching his arm, eyes wide, breathing shallow. Broken. Not just physically. Mentally. Steven walked a few steps away, then stopped. He didn't run. He didn't hurry. He didn't hide. He simply stood there, looking up the street as if deciding which direction to go. The crowd instinctively made space around him. Not because he asked. Because something about him commanded it. The bully looked up and saw people staring at him. Not with fear. Not with respect. With pity. That hurt worse than the pain. "Stop looking at me," he muttered. No one answered. A woman knelt a few feet away, hesitant. "Do you need help?" she asked softly. The man hesitated, then nodded. Weak. A young guy stepped forward, phone still in his hand, eyes wide. "Man, what did you do to him?" he asked Steven, half curious, half scared. Steven turned his head slightly. "He fell." The guy blinked. "He fell." Steven nodded once. No explanation. No bragging. No drama. The guy swallowed. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Right." A man in a business suit leaned over to another. "That wasn't a fall," he whispered. "That was something else." Someone else muttered, "That was professional." The bully heard the word. Professional. His stomach twisted. He looked at Steven again. Really looked. The posture. The stillness. The eyes. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a street fight. This was skill. Deep. Controlled. Lethal. Fear crept in properly now. Not panic. Understanding. "Who are you?" the bully asked again, voice smaller than before. Steven turned slightly, just enough to acknowledge him. "I told you," he said. "Someone you should have respected." The bully swallowed hard. His jaw trembled. The crowd shifted as two older men stepped forward. One whispered, "Isn't that Steven Seagal?" The other squinted. "The actor. The martial artist." A woman nearby gasped. "Wait, seriously?" The words rippled through the crowd like electricity. "Steven Seagal? No way. That's him. The Aikido guy." Phones went up again, not to record a fight, but to zoom in. To confirm. To believe. The bully heard it. The name. Steven Seagal. His eyes widened. "No," he whispered. He looked at Steven. Then at the people. Then back at Steven. You're him," he said, voice cracking. Steven didn't confirm. Didn't deny. He didn't need to. The silence did it for him. The bully's face drained of color. "Oh my God," he breathed. Realization hit him like a second blow. Harder than the first. He hadn't just bullied a random man. He hadn't just grabbed some weak stranger. He had humiliated, challenged, attacked. Steven Seagal. His chest tightened. Regret surged. Pure. Crushing. Heavy. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I swear. I didn't know." Steven met his eyes. "That's the point," he said. The words were calm. But devastating. You shouldn't need to know who someone is to treat them with respect. The bully nodded quickly. Too quickly. "Yes. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The crowd watched. The power had completely shifted. The man who had been dominant now looked like a child caught doing something unforgivable. "I was just joking," he added weakly. "I didn't mean it." Steven didn't respond. The man lowered his head. Shame flooded his face. A woman in the crowd whispered, "He looks terrified." A man replied, "He should be." The bully's shoulders slumped. "I didn't think," he said. I wanted to feel big." Steven's eyes softened. "Just slightly." "That's not strength," he said. "That's insecurity." The bully flinched. The truth hurt. More than his arm. An older man stepped closer and spoke quietly to the bully. "You picked the wrong person, son." The bully nodded. Over and over. "I know," he whispered. "I know." Steven took a step closer. The bully tensed, then relaxed. Like a child expecting punishment. Steven crouched slightly so they were eye level. "Listen to me," Steven said calmly. "This ends here." The bully nodded. "Yes. Yes, sir." Steven's voice stayed steady. "No revenge. No police. No drama. Just learn." The bully's eyes filled with tears. "I will," he said. "I swear." Steven held his gaze for a moment longer. Then stood. The crowd instinctively stepped back. Steven looked around at the faces. The phones. The silence. "You all saw what happened," he said calmly. "Remember it." No one spoke. "He didn't lose because he was weak," Steven continued. "He lost because he chose disrespect." The crowd nodded. Some quietly. Some firmly. Steven adjusted his jacket. The same jacket the man had mocked. The same jacket that now seemed different. He took a step away. Then another. The crowd parted. No one blocked him. No one challenged him. The bully watched him go. Eyes wide. Breathing slow. Heart heavy. As Steven walked off, someone whispered, "That man is dangerous." Another replied, "No, that man is disciplined." The bully lowered his head, and for the first time that day, he felt small. Not because he was beaten, but because he finally understood. Respect isn't given to the loud. It's given to the worthy. And he had just learned that lesson the hardest way possible. The street slowly returned to normal. Cars moved. People walked. Vendors shouted again. But something had changed. Not in the city. In the people. The bully still sat on the pavement, holding his arm, staring at the ground. The noise of the world moved around him, but he felt disconnected from it, like he was watching life through glass. Steven Seagal had already disappeared into the crowd. No applause. No cheers. No attention. Just gone. Like a shadow. The bully blinked hard, trying to steady his breathing. Moments ago, he had been loud, confident, cruel. Now, he was quiet, shaken, exposed. A woman approached him carefully and handed him a bottle of water. "Here," she said softly. He hesitated, then took it. "Thank you," he muttered. The word felt strange in his mouth. "Thank you." He hadn't said it much. A man nearby shook his head. "Man, you got lucky." The bully looked up. "Lucky?" The man nodded. That he stopped. The bully swallowed. He knew it was true. He looked at the space where Steven had been standing, and something twisted inside his chest. Regret. Real. Heavy. Unavoidable. "I didn't mean to be like that," he whispered to no one in particular. I don't know." No one answered. Because everyone knew. He had wanted to feel powerful. And instead, he had been shown powerless. The crowd slowly dispersed. Some stayed, talking in low voices. Others left, still shaken. One teenager said, "I'm never messing with anyone again." Another replied, "Same." That was scary. An older woman murmured, "You never know who someone is." The bully heard every word. Each one landed hard. A man in a hoodie paused as he walked by and looked at the bully. "Next time," he said quietly, "just be kind." Then he kept walking. The bully nodded. To himself. Because there was nothing else to do. He sat there, replaying it all. The shove. The insults. The laughter. The slap attempt. And then, the moment. That tiny movement. That twist. That sound. The world changing in a second. He closed his eyes. Shame washed over him. Not because people saw him lose. Because people saw who he really was. And he didn't like it. A paramedic arrived and knelt beside him. "What happened?" she asked. The bully hesitated. Then said quietly, "I was wrong." She paused, then nodded. "All right. Let's take a look." As she examined his arm, he winced. But the physical pain felt smaller compared to what was happening inside. Across the street, a small group still stood, talking about Steven. Man didn't even raise his voice. He gave him so many chances. That was self-control, not violence. That was discipline. Those words echoed. Self-control. Discipline. The bully clenched his jaw. He had none of that. Not today. Maybe not ever. But he wanted it now. He wanted to be better. Not stronger. Better. He looked up at the sky. For the first time in a long time, he felt small. But also clear. The paramedic finished and wrapped his arm. "You're going to be okay," she said. He nodded. "I know," he replied. And for the first time that day, he meant more than his arm. Across the city, Steven Seagal walked quietly. No one followed. No one stopped him. Just another man moving through the crowd. He passed children laughing. Couples talking. Vendors shouting. Normal life. He adjusted his jacket and continued. The same calm. The same steady pace. As if nothing had happened. But something had. He had made a choice. Not to punish. Not to humiliate, not to destroy, but to teach. And that lesson would stay long after the pain faded. Because broken bones heal. But broken pride remembers. The bully would remember. Every time he raised his voice. Every time he mocked someone. Every time he felt the urge to dominate. He would remember that calm man. That quiet warning. That instant. And he would stop. Or at least, think. And sometimes, that's enough. The camera of the story pulls back. From the man on the ground. From the crowd. From the street. And the message becomes clear. Respect is not about fear. Strength is not about noise. Power is not about humiliation. Real strength is control. The strongest people don't look for fights. They avoid them. But if forced, they end them. Silently. Decisively. And without ego. Because true warriors don't need to prove anything. They already know who they are. And so does everyone else, after they act. The bully learned that. The crowd learned that. And now, so did you.